Some people think the NFL draft is boring and that it doesn't matter. We are clearly not those people.
With the 35th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Nick Emmanwori.
If you believe that a championship caliber football team is built through the draft, through that foundation, through that team building, then welcome home. You are among friends.
All right, well, I know EJ will be fired up too, so.
Welcome to the Bluechip Committee. Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the Bluechip Committee. This is an idea that stemmed from, honestly, just doing really cool content with your friends. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That's Connor Rogers. We got EJ, also known as Ed Snyder, here from Bootleg, as well as Brett Coleman. The four of us combine to become the Bluechip Committee. I'm very excited about this, guys. I'm so excited about what we're going to do here. I know that you guys will explain a little bit more of exactly what we have going on and how this came to be, but specifically for everybody out there, this is a multi-episode series collaboration between the four of us, and today we are talking about the most overrated and the most important traits for different prospects at different positions. There's a lot of, this guy's percentile, his measurables, what he's going to run, all this kind of stuff. Does it make you a better football player? We're going to answer yes or no. So, fellas, before we get into exactly what the why is, how we doing? I'm excited to see all your faces. I'm excited to get this thing kicked off.
How about the big Ed reveal right at the top?
That's true.
Stab it. Just a wild move.
True.
Wild move.
Everybody knows I gotta, Connor, everybody knows who listens to Stock Exchange. We gotta peel back the curtain a little bit. And when we got the notes, because EJ is so well organized, he is so well prepared to get us ready here for this show, he emails us a Google document, and I'm like, who is Ed?
Yeah, I felt right.
It's full government name there on the Google
His
documents,
assistant.
EJ. But we do appreciate
assistant.
it.
I should have just created the whole persona. Oh, that's my assistant. He writes all the notes, man. Like,
run with it.
Brett, how we doing?
I'm doing wonderful, I will say. We should bet on if it's Edgar or Edward.
oh, you're forgetting Edmund. Come on, there's a lot of options here.
Or
Eduardo.
Edard, Nedard Stark, right? I mean, like it could be, it could be full Westeros about it, You just never know. Well, fellas, I'm very excited about this. Very excited to get it kicked off. EJ, really quick, let's talk about how we got here. Let's talk about the how we got here. Let's talk about the what and the why before we really dig into this topic, because, we've collaborated on content, the four of us, over the last couple of years, and if I know anything about us, we're not going to be short-worded when it comes to our explanations of what we think matters and what doesn't when it comes to NFL draft prospects. But tell the people how we got here, first and foremost.
We talked about the who, now let's talk about the what. What is Bluechip Committee? Bluechip Committee is, as you said, a limited run 4-episode series focusing on the NFL draft. And these are long form, as you mentioned, we're not really good at the short form thing, episodes that are going to let us dig into topics that we might not get to dig into on our own channels at the same depth. And we started talking about this actually last year at the Combine and said, man, the collab mock drafts, everybody just says they want more. Should we do something about that? And conversations through the summer and the fall, and we said, yeah, we think there's something there. We think we can actually do this. So we're going to post it as a home and home series, 2 on each channel. 2 will go on NFL Stock Exchange YouTube channel. 2 on Bootleg will alternate. So you will find episode 2 over on Bootleg Football's YouTube channel. But we're really excited about it because it lets us play a little bit, dive in, dig into something that we're all very passionate about. And I'm just thrilled that it finally came to fruition. Like you said, the best probably business strategy here is just make cool shit with your friends.
I just think that it's very funny because you're completely right about like us loving to do content with one another. When you guys have done like the collab mock drafts over at NFLSC, sometimes I think for one of the years we wanted to do a 2-round mock draft with you guys because of how knowledgeable you guys are about the draft and everything.
It's only 7 days in a week though, so we
that's the thing. That's the thing is like I would get a text message from Connor. We're like an hour and a half in, and we're at like pick 20, like pick 21 or something, and Connor would be like, "Brother, we're 90 minutes in.
I have to recharge my lights at like pick 19."
Can I just say, by the way, the discussion that you guys had last year about the Raiders going tight end instead of running back, you ended up being correct, by
Trev's
the way.
Mona Lisa.
Clip it. Somebody in the chat, clip it. Clip this.
They tried dragging the man to the guillotine on site.
You know what my Raiders tight end was for this year? Connor can recall this. I mocked Sonny Styles to the Rams at 10 when they had number 10 overall. Then this is before like Sonny Styles was cool. And
like
I
September.
got destroyed for it.
Yeah.
And now Sonny Styles isn't even going to make it to 10. So,
A speedy off-ball linebacker at 10? You're an idiot. It's always
Especially
great.
for the Rams, like they hate linebacker.
well, that's what everybody said. They're like they're not going to draft a linebacker at 10. And for that point,
Well, now they can't.
are
So
correct,
problem
but,
solved.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Connor,
but
I'm excited to
yeah.
obviously collab with these guys, but yeah, talk to the people more about how we got here.
Well, selfishly, we love to do it, but what
Right.
makes it possible and is so cool is that the feedback we get every time we do shows with you guys is overwhelming, and Trev and I have had a lot of fun over the years doing the collab mock draft series, but there's definitely a little something extra to it when we do it with you guys. Obviously, our audiences are very, very unique. And I say that as the highest form of a compliment. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that, subscribe to both shows or find out about each show from one another. And it's a way for Trevor and I always say this. Like, we start to get a little insulated because him and I start the draft together during summer scouting. And then we do countless mock drafts together and countless conversations together. So when we bring you guys in and other people, it's just nice to get an outside the box opinion from the little world that we're living in. So this is a real way to expand on that, I think. And it's cool that people are super receptive to it.
Yeah, and hold on.
Is he climbing
I
again?
have a cat trying to knock over the.
What?
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the world, buddy.
A few moments later.
Yes, we will have a theme for each episode, which, by the way, we would love to get your guys' feedback on a theme that you want us to talk about. Today, it's all about traits, which ones are important, which ones maybe aren't as important. But if you have a particular like draft-related topic that isn't a mock draft, like maybe it's about a specific position group or a philosophy, team building philosophy, how free agency changes things. If you have a topic you've always wanted us to talk about and we haven't before, drop it down below. We'll probably make it a theme for one of the future episodes. But we have 4 of these coming throughout the draft cycle. Obviously, we're catching up on this class a lot later than the stock exchange boys. And while that might work against us, sometimes we do bring different perspectives to them and completely derail their mock drafts by the time we do it with them, like getting them thinking about tight ends to the Raiders after they just drafted a tight end a year later. So hopefully we can kind of inject a little bit of freshness to them and they don't laugh at us too much. But we'll kick off today's show with our theme of today, which are important traits and maybe overrated traits, I guess is the best way to put it. It doesn't have to be about a particular position. It doesn't even have to be a particular measurable, just something that maybe people don't index enough on when looking at certain positions. Trevor, I'll let you start out.
Yeah, so I feel as though, it would be on brand for us to start with the positive, right? We always like talking about what somebody can do, the positives, all that. That's what scouting is all about. So we'll start with the traits that we feel can be the most important. Maybe it's more of like, okay, this isn't the most important thing in scouting. Maybe it's like an underrated important thing, I think, as I'm kind of seeing our topics and what we'll talk about today. And then we'll get to the more overrated ones, the ones that people are probably tuning in for. We gotta make sure that we keep you the whole video. We gotta make sure that we get to that point. So anyways, most important trait, one of the most important traits, hand size for wide receivers. I think it matters a ton. I really do. Like, I feel like it's such an under talked about and under emphasized part of the measurement process. And when I say that, I mean like when guys go to the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl, or especially like the Combine. Combine's a little bit different because you're trying to get all the measurables and everything, so it's a little bit more there. But when we get to the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl, everybody's always like, okay, what's the verified height? What's the verified weight? What's the verified arm length? I'm like, yeah, obviously those are important. Connor and I and you guys talk about those on our show all the time. You talk about like the percentiles of like, okay, where does this fit within, common guys who are playing the same position at the NFL level. But I feel like hand size just isn't really talked about nearly as much. And I think it matters more than you think. For wide receivers, obviously, bigger hands. I mean, I think most people think about it with quarterbacks, right? Everybody talks about, the Joe Burrows, obviously, like guys who have smaller hands because they have less grip on the football. You can take that theme to all of these other positions. And I think wide receiver is a big one because obviously it just helps you with your catch percentage. Now, that's not to say that like guys who have shorter than, 9.5-inch hands or even like shorter than 9-inch hands, like they can't catch the football. But it certainly helps when you quite literally just have more hand to wrap around the football in a game where the margins are so small. So I think that hand size for a wide receiver matters way more than I think people give it credit for. For example, the Shrine Bowl this year, one of the very first measurements I saw that I took major note of, Skylar Bell, the wide receiver from UConn, he's got 10-inch hands. And this dude's like 5'11", right around like 190 pounds, something like that. He's going to be shorter in almost all of the measurables. Like all of his percentiles are going to be smaller than 50%, except for hand size, which I think matters the most for the position that he's actually playing. So you can take that, and I think that you could actually take it a step further into other positions as well. When you're a pass rusher, bigger hand, making more contact, having more forcible contact on offensive linemen. The other way around, offensive linemen, when you got big ass mitts and you can get your hands inside, my goodness, does that make it so much harder to break the grip when you're a defensive lineman. Corners the same way, punches in press, if you're up in press man coverage, when you got those big hands and you can really punch somebody and knock them off of their releases and their routes, I think about how much we all talk about, look at his height, look at his weight, look at his arm length, and we just don't emphasize hand size the way that we should when it really becomes a difference-making factor for a lot of positions, but specifically wide receiver.
I totally agree. I think that because number one, it just allows you to control the ball in a completely different way. It kind of ties to quarterbacks. Like when you meet quarterbacks, it's almost jarring how 80% of them just have these catcher mitts hands.
Yeah.
And then you realize when you hold an NFL football, you're like, my God, there's a reason why. And people laugh at it all the time. They're like, oh, we get so obsessed with hand size thresholds and everything like that. Well, the receivers are catching that same football from these gargantuan quarterbacks that are throwing fastballs, right? And they're catching it in often congested areas of the field. So it's just all about that control. And I think there's a correlation with hand size with both drops and fumbles because it is a physical game. So I agree, Trevor, that, speed, arm length, height, but it's no surprise when you see a guy that so naturally catches the ball away from his body usually has those 80th percentile and higher hands.
Biggest hands at the combine since 1999. Do we have any guesses? It is a current player.
Ooh.
Sorry, at quarterback specifically.
Oh, quarterback. Okay, I was like, J.J. Watt was like 11 inches. I'd be surprised if somebody
I'll look that up right after, but it is a current quarterback who is tied for the biggest hands since 1999 at the combine.
Josh?
Any guesses?
Yeah, you'd think Josh Allen at the top of that list.
Ooh, where was Josh Allen? It's not him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't think it was, although he's the first that easily comes to mind.
Caleb gets so many RPMs on the ball, which tends to happen when you have bigger hands because it's just larger surface area in the ball, so it just generates a higher spin rate. So I'm just thinking about guys who just have a ball that cuts through the wind. That would be Caleb. That would be obviously Josh. That would be Milton.
So Josh Allen, what was his hand? Oh, no way. This derails my whole argument. Oh, no. Wait, sorry. I'm looking at the edge rusher. Okay. Small hands for Josh Hines Allen. We almost had to restart the whole pod. I was almost shook beyond belief.
It's never been more over.
Josh Allen, the quarterback, over 10 inches, 10 1/8. But the answer that I was looking for, Dak Prescott.
Yeah, it makes sense.
10 7/8 inch hands, almost 11-inch hands from Dak Prescott.
I'd be curious how many fumbles he has in the last 10 years that he's played, because now that I think about it, I don't think he's ever really had a fumble problem.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
Not that I can recall. And he gets hit hard a lot. So it's like that much more impressive.
Biggest hands for a player who is active in the NFL right now at the combine from combine data since 1999. DeForest Buckner, 11 inches 3/4 added to
I feel
that
like
as well.
Amarius Mims has to be up there.
Yeah,
For sure.
DeJuan Jones is on this first page as well. Amarius Mims is also on the first page. Over 11 inches. Osiris Torrance,
97th percentile, 11 and a quarter for Mims.
JJ Watt, 11 and 1/8. Yeah. So, anyways, just felt like we'd have some fun trivia there. Hand size, it matters. It matters. It's not the most important thing, you know. It's something. You know,
It's up there.
how you use the size, but yeah, I'll let you guys.
Yeah, it's one of the things you notice when you are next to these players on the field as well, especially just even in warm-ups. You're watching a guy catch the ball, and you're like, holy cow, look at how much his fingers wrap around that football.
Right.
Or he's just holding it. Guys just flipping the football on the sidelines, wide receivers flipping it to themselves, and they're, flipping it backwards and forwards in one hand, and you look at the size of their hand, and you're like, oh, it's a little easier when you have hands that size. Guys in the gauntlet drill. It does show up when you're next to these players. For me, it is a trait that really is specific to one position, and it's accuracy for quarterbacks. And accuracy can be improved. We've seen it happen, but it takes a while, and it's not a quick fix. To me, accuracy, for the most part, is an inherent thing. And Mike Leach, the former college coach, said, look, accuracy is one of those things you line up a bunch of 12-year-olds and have them throw snowballs at the road sign. The one that hits it, that's the accurate guy. Right? It's just something that people are able to do, and some people are able to do it better than others. And without it, QBs will struggle in any system. We talk about fit and where a guy's landing spot is and how quickly he's going to adapt. If he doesn't have accuracy within that system, I don't care what the system is, because all systems expect you to put a football in a certain place at a certain time. And if you have it, it's a force multiplier. Everything will be better. Your completion percentage will be better because the ball is more accurate. Your yards after catch will absolutely be better because you're putting your playmakers in a position to succeed, because you're not making them turn around and catch that ball behind them and slow down. Even player health and safety. In the Super Bowl, we saw Drake May throw low and away to his wide receiver in an obviously covered situation. He could have led him into contact. We see quarterbacks that do that all the time. Just expect the receiver to take the damage. That's going to lead to a lesser outcome than guys who are super accurate throwing the ball. And when I'm watching quarterbacks, there are certainly other things I watch, but accuracy is kind of one of those baseline traits. They have it or they don't. And if they don't have it to a certain level, it's going to get harder to improve it. Yes, you can improve it with mechanics. We've seen guys do that. But the windows in the NFL are going to get smaller, not bigger. The lanes are going to get tighter. The windows are going to be there for less time. If you're not accurate, all of those things are going to be exacerbated, and it just kind of goes across your effectiveness as a quarterback. So it's one single trait that makes a huge difference to playing the position well.
Can I ask a question to the room on that track?
You may, yes.
Would you rather have somebody who has good accuracy but enough arm strength to have access to every single blade of grass, or somebody who has elite accuracy but maybe not as strong of an arm, so like the range is limited, but when they take a shot, they're going to hit it?
I think the former.
Yeah.
I think there's just less space in the NFL that it's hard to live that way over a longer course of time, I think. And then the great DCs will kind of know what they could take away from you. But you just, in this league, you are just asked to have as many options as possible, like the full arsenal. Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of the great ones could do. And it's a tough one because you'd love to have one elite trait, but we've seen guys with those limitations, eventually struggle down the road.
I think it's very common to talk about arm strength as one of those things where we talk about it in an elite category and how coveted it is, right? When you talk about quarterbacks who are worthy of a top 10, a top 5, a number 1 overall selection, what's the first thing that you say? Well, does he have the arm talent? Like, is this an arm talent player that you would take at number 1 overall? And I don't think it gets talked about enough to where the question that you just asked, having elite consistent ball placement is also something that is incredibly valuable. And I do think that there are a lot of quarterbacks out there who are accurate and have good ball placement who don't make it in the NFL because they have good ball placement. Even great ball placement sometimes that can get lost in the shuffle if you don't have a strong arm. But if you have elite ball placement, that's different. And I think that for the most part, maybe accuracy can be something that, like you guys have talked about, can be taught a little bit, repetition, timing, chemistry with your wide receivers, all that. But elite accuracy and ball placement is just as valuable as anything else at the quarterback position, I think.
So EJ, as a Bears fan, where does Caleb fall in that spectrum to you? And which part of that spectrum do you value more, right? Because he's not going to hit every throw, but when he does hit the throw, it's like, oh my God, there's 5 guys alive that can do that. But then some of the easy stuff, people are like, okay, well, the fan in the second row is going to be really happy with that souvenir.
Yeah, it is a little bit of both, and it's improving. But when you're talking about any of these traits outside of physical measurements like hand size, but if you're talking about any of these traits in terms of route running or, punch or timing or hand placement, or in this case, accuracy or arm strength, it's a slider, right? We've seen guys improve their arm strength when they hit the NFL. Notably, guys like Drew Brees got a stronger arm once he got in an NFL conditioning program. So, it's where they are in the slider. And if you're talking about Caleb, the arm strength is elite. That slider is maxed. He's one of the top 3 arms in the NFL, starter or not. He can make throws, like you said, that nobody else can make. So you kind of have that, and it's like, well, yeah, but he's going to make some of those throws, and he made a ton of them this year, and that definitely tilts the scale a little bit. The other thing is we've seen him be very accurate. He can be very, very accurate on what I'll call in structure and base level plays. And he is sometimes, but the consistency of that accuracy comes down to things like mechanics, setting your base, taking your time. And he got better at that as the year progressed. So I think there's still some more to that slider to be out there. But yeah, it's really frustrating when you've seen him do both, right? You've seen him absolutely rip a ball through the wind, in the cold, 60 yards down the field that basically nobody can throw. And you've seen him hit a window over the middle of the field that's as, big as a bread box. And you're like, okay, he can do it. And then miss a guy, by 3 feet in the flat. Talking about placement, hey, everybody's like, oh, what kills me about that? Commentators, right? Oh, if the back could have just laid out. No, if Caleb could have hit him in the numbers, it would have been a 20-yard gain. Let's put the blame where it goes. So I think you have to look at how far you're maxing all those things and how much it's like a Venn diagram. How much does it make up for the fact that, he's not going to hit every throw, that he's going to hit one throws that nobody else can hit.
To complicate things even further, in my film / traits notes that I have when I'm building the full scouting report for a lot of these guys, I have clean pocket accuracy and I have out of structure accuracy as 2 different things, because
it's different.
Who you are in a clean pocket is so much based on muscle memory and repetition, right? It's your fundamentals, it's your footwork, it's how well you're taught, it's the follow through, it's the timing, all of that. And then when you get out of the pocket and all hell breaks loose, EJ, it goes back to all right, who's the kid who hits the stop sign with a snowball? Like natural touch is sometimes the part that can't be taught. And so it is, I have it weighted differently for guys that I would consider more pocket quarterbacks versus guys that are going to do a little bit more damage with their legs, that are going to want to create a little bit more. And I have the weight of those 2 things adjusted a little bit more accordingly for which scenario they're going to see more often. But yeah, it's almost like accuracy itself can be broken down into more granular stuff too.
So you guys kick things off specifically looking at the pass game, hand size for wide receivers, accuracy for quarterbacks. And I wanted to talk about the guys that affect the pass game, and that's the edge rushers. And I think that testing, can be overhyped or more theater at times. But when it comes to pass rushers, man, testing is it's not everything, but man, it helps you really, really trim some of the fat in the evaluations. And it's not, I look more at the 10-yard split, basically how you get off the ball and how you dictate the rep, and then your agility once the play is actually going on. And this comes in a lot of different forms, but I think the 10-yard split, the 3-cone, and even the shuttle, the 20-yard shuttle for pass rushers, it's no surprise. You think of the peak example, right, in Von Miller. Von Miller is the easy one to look at and go, okay, he was 6'3", he was almost 250 pounds. He only had and it's funny to say only, 80th percentile 10-yard split, which is still amazing at that weight. But this is somebody that had a 6'7" 3-cone, 94th percentile, and a 4.06 20-yard shuttle, 94th percentile. The game in those one-on-one pass rush situations is really about the blocker trying to mirror and the pass rusher trying to keep him off balance. And your ability to convert speed to power and then go outside that toolbox where the agility comes into play. And now there's a new element in the league, and not new, but it's more in this generation where, man, can you open up and run and contain these quarterbacks that are now running backs with the football in their hands? Like, the game's different where it's, okay, read and react, run defender, okay, 3rd and long, I'm on an island, this tackle's on an island against me. Have my speed, has it forced him enough to open up and overset a little bit, and now I can beat him inside, which goes back to the agility. Oh, here's the new layer of it, that this quarterback can beat me to the corner. And the special ones don't allow that. But that's another aspect of if you go with an inside move and then you need to change direction and get to the sideline, you got to be agile, man. And it's not surprising to see the numbers for Von Miller and TJ Watt and Nick Bosa and Nick Benito, right? Like this, I think the agility scores and the 10-yard can even help you find some deeper cuts in the draft. But with how athletic quarterbacks are now and how athletic tackles have gotten as well, that short area burst and agility is just so vital, man. You got to have it to keep them guessing.
I kind of want to piggyback off that because where I learned that lesson the most was Randy Gregory, like 10 years ago at this point, maybe more than 10 years ago at this point. And you guys obviously have been doing this for a long time, just like us. You remember the consistent note with Randy when he was coming out of Nebraska was late off the ball, like bad first step. And when I had dove into Randy's tape that year, I noticed it wasn't really him actually trying to get off the ball. They played a very like read react defensive line style there at Nebraska. I think Malik Collins was on that line too, off the top of my head. And when you saw him go to the combine and actually test, he had an 80th percentile 10-yard split, he had a 98th percentile 3-cone. And you're like, okay, he is athletic. It's more just like what he was taught to do at Nebraska was to get in that 4-point stance, read the block, and then go. He wasn't really shooting up the field. And that's where I really gained an appreciation for these agility numbers and verts and 10-yard splits, because like that actually tells me what you're capable of athletically, and it gives more context to the tape. So, you know, just when you're watching edges this year, note that if they get a good jump on the tackle, it's like, are they timing the snap well, or are they just that athletic? Or if they're not getting a good jump, it's like, are they just reading and reacting, or are they actually trying to get up the field? Like the tape gives a lot of context to the numbers, and the numbers gives a lot of context to the tape, and you have to weave those two things together. But like, I agree, agility numbers, like you can't really fake those. Either you're athletic or you're not.
There was, I cannot remember who it was, but I remember like right around the 2016, 2017 NFL draft, something like that. There was a player that I really liked. Again, I can't remember who it was, but they were really good at getting into the backfield. Like, I don't want to say consistently, but like their best 5 plays, their best 10 plays of the year, whatever. Like they were just a demon off the line of scrimmage and getting into the backfield. And then somebody pointed out to me, they're like, yeah, he's jumping the snap count. Like he's not really athletic. He's just jumping it. And then you go, and I'm like, oh. And I went back and I was like, oh, you had 8 false start penalties, or you had 8 offsides penalties. Like, oh, you had 6 neutral zone infraction penalties, like whatever it was. And it's like, oh, okay. But that was one of those moments where, yeah, I mean, like as everybody sort of goes throughout their scouting journey, you start as just a football fan watching the game, and you go, that guy got in the backfield really quickly. He must be good. And then you kind of, the longer you do this and the more critically you look at it, like what Connor said and sort of what Brett expounded upon there, like sometimes even if they don't get into the backfield, you see the first step, right? You see that explosiveness, right? It's why Keldrick Falk from Auburn is, I mean, all eyes that have anything to do with scouting are going to be watching Keldrick Falk at the combine, especially, you know, if he's running the full gamut of all of the drills and everything like that, because they want to know, hey, you didn't really get into the backfield with regularity. You didn't really have a high passers win rate. But if you can get off the ball and if you're flexible the way that we think you might be capable of, we'll talk about him as a top 15, top 12 pick again.
Future Bengal. Yeah, we know.
Oh, no.
Hello to all the addicts. I know you're not used to seeing me do ad reads on this channel. In fact, some of you probably have no idea who I am, and that's perfectly okay. I'm just trying to get your boys paid, so just bear with me for the next 90 seconds. Today's show is in part brought to you by Factor. I'm sure a lot of you know who they are already, but just in case you don't, Factor ships ready to eat, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your doorstep. And they taste pretty good too. All of the meals can be heated up in the microwave in just 2 minutes. They taste great. There's a ton of variety, so you never get bored. I mean, there's over 100 different meal options per week, and those options include high protein choices, calorie smart, GLP-1 support, and ready to eat salads as well. Whatever you could want for your own taste preferences and dietary needs, they've got it. And the best part is, it cuts down on the amount of meal prepping and grocery shopping you have to do every single week as well. So if you're interested in getting meals that can be made fast, eaten conveniently, and still be tasty, all delivered right to your door, I encourage you to check out Factor, and you can do so by going to factormeals.com/bootleg50off. And if you use promo code bootleg50off, all lowercase, all one word, that's going to get you 50% off your order and free breakfast for a year. Again, factormeals.com/bootleg50off, 50% off, free breakfast for a year. Thank you for spending the last minute and a half-ish with me. And with that, let's get back to the show.
I think it's a really useful time to talk about numbers as eliminators, and Connor led off with that it can really help you sort players because somebody else said, look, you can't fake these numbers. And there's a lot of things, like you said, Trev, you can see on tape, but they come from different things, right? And whether it's wide receivers getting open, hey, is it because they're a great route runner? Is it because they have great physical skills? Or is it because their coach is tremendous at scheming them open and they always have separation because of that? Same thing with pass rushers. There are rushers who you like, and if they don't have that trump card trait, if they don't have that one thing that they're just great at, if they don't generate enough power to push a truck by themselves, and they're not quick, they're not getting into the backfield in the NFL. If they can't just smash through the blocker and they're not quick enough to go around them, where are the wins going to come from? They're just going to get cleanup sacks. And when you look at the film, there's a lot of times where this is why film is so important. And Brett, you talked about, welding the film and the numbers together, is because there's lots, and you can all account for this. There are lots and lots of reps where a player wins, they don't get any credit for it. Right?
Sure.
They cleanly beat the tackle, play went away
Right.
from them, but they absolutely whooped the tackle. First step, great move, hand usage, whatever it was. It's like, oh, that's a clean win. You're not getting anything for it because it ended up being a run to the other side. But, oh, man, I'm marking that off as a clear win for you. And those don't show up in the stats, right? Those are not going to – it's a run play. You're not going to get a pass rush win rate off of that. You clearly won. If it was a pass play, quarterback was in trouble. But that's why it's so important to take the two. And a lot of these numbers you can look at, and if they come up bad for certain positions, you just kind of have to go, ooh, do they have something else that's going to get them over the top? Because that's not a good enough score to buoy you in the league.
And let's be honest, like, you're going up against Lane Johnson. You're going to, Penei Sewell, Trent, either Chargers tackle whenever they're healthy. Like, there are so many freakishly athletic tackles of all ages and all sizes in the NFL these days. Like, even the Jets, arguably the worst franchise in the NFL.
I knew it was
Maybe
coming.
not arguably if you're talking to Connor. They got two really good young tackles.
Yeah,
so it's like,
they
even if
do.
you're playing the worst team, you got a long day if you don't have athleticism as a pass rusher. So it's kind of non-negotiable. And there's actually a guy we're going to talk about later in the show where when I was watching him, I was like, I don't know.
That's a teaser. That's what we
Teaser.
like.
That's a
Keep
good-
people
that's a
classy.
good one to stick around.
Now people got to listen to the very end. We're going to be 5 seconds before the show ends. Brett's going to be like, oh, yeah, this guy was who I was talking about. And then, it's just going to cut to the outro or whatever. No explanation. Brett, what's your most important trait that you want to talk about?
I think the Super Bowl was a great billboard for the importance of the defensive tackle position. And in particular, how having an elite DT pairing kind of sets the stage for everything else on defense. Like the Seahawks played nickel and dime since Eamon got back. They played nickel and dime 93% of the time. And it wasn't just because Nick Eamon can play linebacker or cover Justin Jefferson one-on-one. I mean, that helps. But if we're talking about front structure, it's a lot of split safety. And the fact that they have Leo and Byron Murphy, and they can stick a 306-pound Byron Murphy at 2I most of the time and still stop the run. Like, that is such a force multiplier. And then you look at the other side of the Super Bowl, you got Milton Williams, who is just another Byron Murphy, just older and richer. Christian Barmore. Like, there was so much good defensive tackle talent in that game that it's hard not to come away with the lesson that block destruction for a DT is the most important trait. And we love to get DTs that can pass rush, obviously, but 80% of the job is defensive tackles getting you to 3rd and 7 in the first place. Like, that is their job.
Right.
Like, you look at like the Texas Tech defensive line, there's going to have like 3 guys in the NFL next year. Lee Hunter's job on that defensive line was getting David Bailey to 3rd and 7. Mm-hmm. So if you have a guy that can do that, let alone if you have 2 guys that can do that, your defense is always going to be in a better position. And that starts with block destruction. That starts with stopping the run. If you can play split safety and still make every single 3rd down as long as possible, like if you're looking statistically at 3rd down conversion rates by distance, it falls off a cliff once you get past 5 yards. So it's like, if you can make every single 3rd down 6+ by stopping the run from a split safety look because you have these absolute gargantuans at DT, like the rest of your night is on easy mode. Well, maybe not easy mode, but it's easier. And you can't tell me after the last decade of football, with all the plays that Chris Jones made for the Chiefs dynasty, the 2 teams in the Super Bowl this year, Aaron Donald closing it out for the Rams, like every single really good Super Bowl caliber team has had 1, sometimes 2 elite defensive tackles. If you don't have that, it's not that your floor is lower, but your ceiling is a lot lower as a team.
I think we talk about like changing the math type of players, right? That's a phrase that Connor and I use a lot on Stock Exchange. And when we talk about like changing the math type of players, I think that it starts with defensive tackle, right? Because if you have a nose tackle or just I guess what would be considered nowadays like a traditional defensive tackle where these players can legitimately take up 2 offensive linemen, whether they're actually holding 2 offensive linemen or they're so good at what they do that 2 offensive linemen have to pay attention to this one person at all times. You change the math in your favor, right? I mean, then you have more one-on-ones on the line of scrimmage, but more importantly, you can still fit the run from 2 high looks, because if you have that math advantage. If you have 4 guys, if you have 4 down linemen, but you have 5 offensive linemen who are out there, but you feel like you're hat on a hat because one guy's guaranteed to be able to take 2 guys' attention, well, then all of a sudden the math gets easier for you to play a little bit deeper, having guys fit from depth, like all that kinds of stuff. So, yeah, man, I as somebody whose favorite team has Vita Vea on it, yeah, I couldn't agree more,
helps.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, all your checks are in the mail. You're making my job a lot easier for one of the players we're going to talk about later. In fact, I'm just going to go see the earlier notes from Brett and Trev. Yeah, I'm done. But we'll get there. It is tremendously important, and Mike McDonald, who is largely now, I think, rightfully being viewed as the prototype of defense in the NFL, came right out after the Super Bowl and said it. If you can stop the run from 2 high, that's special stuff. Like, that is special stuff. He said it directly, and that's exactly what he meant. And he's able to weld together coverage and pressure in a way because of the athletes he has and the way he teaches it. But that's the end result, is I can stay in this structure, which allows me to be the most flexible, and I can stop whatever you bring with the people that I run out and align this way. Again, because I'm really talented on the front 4 and in the secondary, but also because we run a structure that allows us to do that, and the math changes for us. And you saw it in Super Bowl. It was very, very difficult to beat. There was just nowhere to go. There was no air for the Patriots on offense, and that started with that defensive line.
Moving on to
Connor,
most
if I
important
can
traits?
ask you a question.
Oh, okay, you go ahead.
And I really don't mean to twist the knife here.
There's no twisting that could be done.
What hurt more, losing Sauce or losing Quinnen? Like, what was more noticeable?
Oh, Quinnen. Yeah, Quinnen for sure. Quinnen changes the entire dynamic of your front. You watch them defend the run with and without Quinnen, it's laughably noticeable. And I love Sauce, and I think Sauce is an awesome cover corner. But the Jets just lost so much faster without Quinnen. Like the Jets weren't even really in situations where it was like, okay, 3rd and 8, at least we have Sauce out there to take away an option. They can't even make stops on 1st and 2nd down without Quinnen. So, and you saw the impact he had on Dallas. It's going to be interesting because that 2027 class, and we have a bad habit of doing this, but I feel like this is the time where it's going to actually age well. 2027 is going to be really nice. So getting that first rounder for that year might have been a savvy move, but we'll see. I mean, the thing is, like, you had to, if you were going to do it, you had to do it now, or else you're just going to ride it out with Quinnen before he gets to 30 years old and you're getting a 2nd round pick or whatever it is and nothing else. So I thought the return was fine, but it's really tough to replace a guy like that.
So in your head, it's like, well, we weren't going to win with him anyway, so might as well.
They're so far away
that
if by the time you're really competitive again, he's 30, 31 years old and you had to pay him again. Sauce was more interesting to me because they just paid him. He's in his mid-20s. Like, that's the one where it's like, it's definitely more, that's more of a game. And they got a great return. So, yeah, they even said it. Like, we couldn't turn down 2 1s in Adonai.
We've talked about that on our channel before. I bet the conversations, like the text chain with Chris Ballard and Darren Muji, just got out of control, where like Ballard was probably like, hey, we'll give you a 1st for Sauce. And they were like, nah. And then Chris Ballard was like, hey, man, we'll give you a 1st and a 4th for Sauce. And it's like, nah, we're not going to. Hey, buddy, we'll give you a 1st and a 3rd. Nah, we're not really interested. Hey, we'll give you a 1st and a 2nd.
We'll do it for 2 1s.
Still not. Hey, we'll give you 2 1s. All right, brother. Fax it over.
No, throw in Adonai Mitchell, too.
And A.T. Mitchell.
That mattered a lot to them.
Yeah.
So it's,
future 1,000-yard wide receiver.
Whether they'll be right or wrong, that was definitely about the return. Where Quinnen, I think, was deservingly ready to be somewhere he had a better shot to win. But man, you watch that defense.
Sent him to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? I mean, hey, he's happy as a clam over there.
Yeah. All right, so now you get a little bit pessimistic. Most overrated traits. I'll start with this one. I won't say specifically 40-yard dash time, although that is the easy way to judge it.
Right.
Long speed for running backs. Don't really care, man. It is so much further down the pecking order of traits that I prioritize that take up a bigger percentage of the pie of that 100 scale that I have that judges who you are as a running back. There are just, give me the dude who's going to turn a 3-yard carry into 6 yards with 3 yards after contact, the 2 yards into 5 yards, hit behind the line of scrimmage, and he turns it into a 2-yard gain. I will take that player every single day over a guy who's going to run a 4.3 flat. And the reason why is because, simply put, you don't have a lot of opportunities to show that you run a 4.3. You just don't.
Nope.
Unless you so heavily outmatch somebody in the trenches, which in the NFL doesn't happen very often. Even those, outside zone or swing plays that get you to the sideline, like, how many of those do you get a season? You get single digits for sure. And at best, it feels like it's, 8 snaps the whole season where you actually get to showcase that you're a 4.3 guy. Everybody loves to say, oh, he's got the home run speed. And look, some of the best running backs in the NFL are really damn fast. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, right? Like Saquon Barkley. All of these guys are really fast. And that's why I'm not saying like it doesn't have value, but all of those guys have contact balance. They've got vision. They've got the traits to go on top of that. So to me, it's an overrated trait because I think that people look at the speed of running backs and they just go, man, just give this guy a little bit of daylight. It's like, all right, well, first he's got to get to the daylight. Right. Then he's probably getting hit somewhere. How many times do you see a guy run 60 yards clean, never gets touched? The opportunities that you get to showcase world-class speed as a running back are so much fewer than the carries where I need you to get 3 yards, 4 yards after contact at an average. So I think that long speed for the running back position. I mean, think of guys like Kyron Williams, Tyler Algier. I mean, you could take it back even further. Like, I think of guys like Devontae Freeman before he had the knee injury, right? I mean, like Arian Foster, certainly. He had
Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, like Josh Jacobs isn't the fastest guy either. But it's like, those players still had so much value because they bring the down-to-down ability that you actually want to seek from your run game. So long speed for running backs, overrated in my opinion.
This is why, and it never changes, how Jaden Blue goes in the 5th round and Kyle Monungai barely gets drafted. I mean, to a T.
Yeah.
One runs a 4.3, your jaws hit the floor. The other runs a 4.6, and one's a professional running back that could split in a committee at a pretty high level. The other can't even be active on game day. It's just, that's all it is. So.
EJ, correct me if I'm wrong. Monungai got faster.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yes.
Well, it's funny because maybe it's a Bears thing because David Montgomery got faster. David Montgomery's big knock was he's a power guy. He runs super tough. He'll never quit. Great contact balance, good vision, just a really, really strong runner. But everybody's like, to Trevor's point, like, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that 5th gear. He's not a home run guy. He got faster in between year 2 and 3. So you can do speed training and you can fix it, but what this reminds me of is just bad math, right? It's like, hey, this guy can run again, and you see it more often in college than you do in the pros, and that's when you see highlights where guys go 60 yards, don't get touched in college. It looks great, strike up the band, crowd goes nuts. You're not going to get that chance in the NFL. It's bad math. If that's what you're betting on as your key trait, again, not just, if you're only fast and you don't have contact balance, vision, all those things, you're never going to get a chance to get there. It reminds me of that trait when you're building up a video game character and it's like, well, if these 3 things are satisfied, you get the instant kill. And it's like, well, those 3 things are never going to be satisfied together, so I'm wasting a point on this trait.
Right.
That's what it reminds me of. Is it looks great, sure, but to your point, you're going to get single-digit chances. It's not going to change the math. What changes the math for a running back, there's a reason that explosive runs are 10 yards or more, not 15 or 20 or 25.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
You can get explosive runs with all those other things, and those go so much further to keeping drives alive, moving your team towards points, adding up EPA, all of that. So it is one of those things. It's eye candy every year, and it catches people out. They're like, oh, I don't know. He's okay, but did you see how fast he is? I'm like, don't care. Like, it's the Cutler meme, right? Not interested. Like, give me a guy that can do all the other things. Hey, if he gets a little bit faster like Monungai did, that's just a bonus. But the majority of Monungai's yards were not because he got faster. It's because of all the things that got him there in the first place that he showed off at Rutgers.
And I would say it's the same thing for receiver, too. Like, DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers I've ever seen in my life. He ran 4.57.
Funny you should say that. What's my most overrated trait? It's 40 times for wide receivers. I'm going to give you 5 40 times, and then I'm going to attach names to them. 4.5,
okay.
4.51, 4.56, 4.57, and 4.62. And we've all been at the combine. We've all watched the combine. We know what numbers excite us when wide receivers go down the strip, right? It's 4.3 these days. It's maybe occasionally 4.2, low 4.4s. Ooh, those get the oohs, right? Again, 4.5, 4.51, 4.56, 4.57, and 4.62. All 5 of those guys have been all pros, not Pro Bowlers, because Pro Bowlers is garbage. All pros within the last 5 years. JSN.
Who are they? Oh, there you go.
Amon-Ra, Devontae Adams, Puka, and Cooper Kupp.
I mean, there it is.
There it is right there. A guy runs a 4.56, and it's funny when I was doing research for this. In Googling, it brings up the old stuff, and it's like old Reddit articles. Oh, Devontae ran a 4.56. This is really concerning. I thought he was going to be good, but he ran a 4.56 from right after he ran it, right? And, in hindsight, you're like, Yeah, cold takes exposed, that didn't age well. Like every year we see it, guy runs a 4.29 and somebody goes, I don't know, maybe he's really good. And it's the same argument we just had about running back, but for wide receiver, I think it's amped up even more because, again, they are getting farther down the field. It's fun to watch a guy catch an 80-yard bomb. How often is that going to happen? Can your quarterback even throw it, to an earlier point? It's a different thing, but there's 3 ways to win as a wide receiver: off the line, at the break, at the catch point. Speed helps in lots of those, but it's not required for any of them. So you can win as a wide receiver without overall speed. Again, quickness, I would argue, is very important. Technique, the mental game. How fast are you thinking through things is big for young wide receivers. But we tie so much to this one physical number every year. And it's a trap. It's overrated.
And, it kind of brings me to mind because, EJ, what you're describing is it's theater at the combine. Like everybody's adrenaline levels are different when the wide receivers are getting ready to run. It's the big event, more often than not. That's the position group that is the favorite to have the fastest 40 at the combine every year. And I have the same line of thinking with who throws and who doesn't at the combine and even pro days. It's theater, right? If you're evaluating these guys, you've seen more often than not what they can and can't do from an arm perspective from watching them play football most of the time across multiple years. Now, I don't blame the guys that pass up on throwing at the combine when they'd rather throw their script to their guys at the pro day, right? It sounds like Fernando Mendoza is actually already doing this, and part of his thinking is like, I want to elevate my guys at the pro day. I totally understand that. And I think there is something to throwing in front of coaches because coaches get involved so late in this process that for them, one story I've told before is there was a coach who had kind of been told and hadn't jumped in the scouting yet before a workout, like, Baker Mayfield, he's got an okay arm. And when the coach got to the workout and saw Baker throw, he turned around at the scouting department and was like, are you guys fucking kidding me? Like Baker has an awesome arm. So it's good for coaches to go to those private workouts or even pro days and watch a guy throw. But if you're an evaluator, and you guys will laugh when I tell you off air what coach it was, one you'd never guess. When you're an evaluator, like, you're not sitting there and going, man, I can't file this report until he throws at the pro day or the combine. Right. It's just, but it's theater. It's theater. Everybody would be live tweeting. Did you just see what Joe Milton did? Did you just it's just theater, but I don't think it's necessarily a part of the actual evaluation very much.
It's also like throwing at the combine and throwing at pro days are such a funny part of this whole cycle because it's often some of the most talked about. And you're totally right. Like, it has the least amount of meaning. The meaning versus how much it's talked about, there is no greater gap than quarterbacks throwing at the combine at the pro day. And for Mendoza, Mendoza not throwing at the combine, which is the same every year for, I think, like the top quarterback and everything, is
typically
a lot of times it's the LeBron slam dunk contest theory, right? When LeBron was in his prime, people were always like, well, why has LeBron never done a slam dunk contest? Like, why won't he do it? All this kind of stuff. And it's like, you already think LeBron's the greatest dunker in the world. So the only place that he could go now is down.
That's right.
If he does not live up to your expectations. Mendoza is already, without question, the number one quarterback in this draft and the very likely number one overall pick. The only place he can go is down. That's it.
Yep.
So that's why a lot of these guys don't want to do it.
I will say, and I heard this directly from somebody who would know, I'll leave it at that. Caleb was in agony during the combine because he got out there and he saw all the other guys throwing and he was like, fuck. Like, I wish I was doing that right now. And it, partly because he's competitive, but partly just because, like, some of his guys were out there catching passes and he's like, it's like, I get a feeling that Fernando is going to feel the same way because apparently he is, like, psychotically competitive. But another reason why some of the guys who are, like, guaranteed to go number one don't do it is because the less throws they do, which don't really benefit them at all, the more throws the other guys get. Because you still got to work all these receivers in for a certain number of reps. And so, Caleb was training with some of those guys who was like, okay, I don't need to do this. The more throws you guys get, the better. It'll help you get a pick thrown your way. But he got out there and he was just like, God damn, he's like, I could hit that. He's like, I could do it right now. But yeah, it's so funny, like when you get out there and all of a sudden it becomes a football practice and you want to be a football player.
Yes, right.
Hey guys, you know the deal. We could talk about the NFL draft a lot. That means longer episodes where the back and forth, it gets pretty heated sometimes. And nobody, I mean nobody, wants a smelly co-host. Fortunately, Mando keeps us smelling good. No panic sweats when a certain team is on the clock, just pure confidence to get it right. And no fear to raise those arms in celebration. You can find Mando products at your local retailer, or just head to shopmando.com because for a limited time, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. That's right, use code BOOTLEG at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's code BOOTLEG, SHOPMANDO.com. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered. With deodorant plus sweat control, say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness.
Brett, what is yours? What is your most overrated trait here?
Raw production. And it's something that we always talk about for whatever player. For whatever
Danielle
player.
Hunter?
The Danielle Hunter.
That's my Mount Rushmore.
The ultimate one. Yeah, he's all four faces of Mount Rushmore on that, actually, with how his NFL career is gone.
And I will say, like, it sounds somewhat hypocritical because last year it's like I banged on Shamar for lack of production as a pass rusher, but it wasn't even like lack of sacks. It was just lack of winning. It was lack of pressure. It was more like lack of advanced stats that could point to you just like being effective at all. And it's like, okay, super athletic. Like let's see him actually like affect the game. And even if you just were parsing out the snaps where, okay, he is lined up as a 5 technique or wider, and it's on a true drop back, which I'm not saying that there was a ton of those, but even if you just watch those splits, you're like, oh, he's not really winning, right? But for me, like the raw production that I'm more talking about is for offensive skill positions. It could be running back, could be tight end, could be receiver, and hell, even could be quarterback, depending on the system. The actual production totals, to me, don't really matter that much because a lot of the times, like you guys remember DK and AJ Brown and Phil Longo's system at Ole Miss, is like you have 2 future All-Pro caliber receivers,
Right.
And we're not doing anything with them, right? I was pulling my hair out watching DK's tape, and it's like that's a starting NFLX today, and they really didn't feature him whatsoever. Gets to Seattle. Didn't have like the craziest rookie year, but like you saw it, and then they started working him more and more in, and he became DK Metcalf. Puka, now partly because of injuries, Puka wasn't super productive in college. Terry McLaurin was an afterthought in college. James Cook didn't really become what he was as a runner until he got to the NFL. No. He was like, let's run counter with him 7 times a game and just see if he breaks one. Like he wasn't a complete running back. And, production was held against all of these guys, but it's like you have to take into account system. You have to take into account who is their quarterback that's throwing to them? Who is the offensive line that's in front of the quarterback? Does the quarterback even have time to take shots to this vertical receiver down the field? And I don't want to say I don't care about production, but I really, really don't factor that in for skill positions whatsoever. And it's really like advanced stats production that I care about. Missed tackles forced per attempt.
Absolutely.
Again, what's your win rate as a pass rusher, or what's your pressure rate allowed as an offensive line? Again, Trevor's showing it on screen, the PFF shirt. That's what they're there for.
Yeah,
is to track all that shit. But the raw production totals, I kind of don't care. I'm not gonna lie.
And it goes on the other side of things too. Like you talked about a lot of guys who weren't productive, who you saw talent from going to the NFL level. There are so many uber productive college players who don't become good NFL players. And you hear, I'm not here to blame anybody for this. Like I get like there's a lot of college football fans who just watch this very casually, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like this guy had over 1,000 yards for 3 straight seasons. Like obviously he's going to be good. And sort of to what Brett was saying, it's like, yeah, production is obviously something that you would like to see from a player. Like, you want to see them produce, but it's not as much of the full picture as I think some people treat it to be. Like, for example, I don't mean to individually dog on this guy, but like, he's the first one that I thought of. David Bell, the wide receiver from Purdue. David Bell, I pulled up his stats. He had over 1,000 yards his freshman season at Purdue. He was hurt the following season, but he still had really good production. And then the last year in 2021, he had almost 1,300 receiving yards. David Bell was one of the worst athletes at his position at the combine.
Still running his 40 while we do this show.
I was going to say, he's the only receiver that 40 time mattered for ever.
and it's one of those things where it was like, this guy caught almost 1,300 yards in college, which is a lot at the college level with only playing in 11 games. Like, that's crazy. And yet, if you watch the tape and you sort of watched how he played, you'd realize that a lot of those numbers aren't translatable. So to your point, Brett, like, common stats, a good chunk of them aren't translatable.
Oh, I got a good one.
That's the thing. You have to find the translatable production that actually matters.
You guys remember Gerard Holloman?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, don't even get me started. I was obsessed with him.
Gerard Holloman is the king of this category, though, in like a funny way.
What
of
were
like,
his stats? Do you have them?
Yeah. So he had 14 interceptions in 2013, I believe, or 2014. 14.
Yeah.
That's
People are calling him Ed Reed.
Yeah,
That's like 1.5 a game.
But if you that Holloman
Magnet ball.
he's a great example, right? Because and I think these stats, these raw production stats, fuel more of the arguments that we get into with fans than anything else. Because again, it's cognitive dissonance. They can't see the number and go, that equals not good or not translatable.
Right.
So Holloman, that year, I was like, well, obviously, ball production, great. Let's watch all of them. And I watched them in a row. And like 8 of them were cans of corn. Like, nobody around him. Ball just got chucked up to the middle of the field. He ran underneath it, caught a punt. Like, that kind of thing. Like, 8 of them right off the crack. And I was like, okay. So that's he's still got, another half almost. Like, there's probably some. No, there were like 2 to 3 quality interceptions that year.
I learned that lesson several times, this whole lesson several times throughout my career. And it manifested itself in the Emmanuel Forbes draft. And I can't tell you how many fights I got in about Forbes where everybody's like, ball hawk, ball hawk, ball hawk. I'm like, did you watch the fucking interceptions? Like, did you watch them? Like, what they actually were? Like, the
and a lot
tip
of times,
picks?
no. A lot of times it's no.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
my
That's
God.
the answer. The answer is no.
Box score production is easy, man.
Yeah.
And then he went ahead of Gonzo.
And I'm not and I'm not always like
Well,
I'm not a
That was a mistake.
Whew, yeah, that was tough. I try to be somewhat understanding because we have so much access to film and it is so easy for us to very simply go watch Emmanuel Forbes interceptions. Now, you could sift through it if you really wanted to, like on YouTube and watch the full games back and everything. But a lot of people don't have the access to the film. And they just go, hey, how many picks did he have? Like it was something
I think it's
crazy,
6
like,
or 7. Somewhere around there.
Yeah, he had a lot.
He did it.
I put
He
or.
did it.
I put or in there,
Hey,
Trev.
hey.
I put or.
Hey, he did it, not me.
Thank God there's no live audience right now. Destroys our chat every time.
But anyways, he had a lot of those interceptions, and yeah, I think a lot of people just, you say like, did you watch them? But probably not. They might have seen like 1 or 2, like if they're Mississippi State fans or something while they're watching the game, but they probably didn't see all 7. So, that's why it's important to, honestly, like if you have access to film and you have the ability to go watch it for yourself, obviously that's great. If not, a lot of the content that you're taking in for the draft, make sure you're following somebody that has the ability to check stats and even advanced data analytics with what actually shows up on the film and how these guys are actually playing.
I will say for the comment section, there are rumors Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There are rumors that a certain Patreon page exists that has cut-ups for draft prospects for like $5, somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit more, but unsubstantiated rumors that is a thing.
Can't confirm or deny.
I'll let you guys look for it on your own.
We moving on to our player highlights here. Some
Go
guys
for it.
that we want to shout out. So it's, early in the draft process for a lot of people. Connor and I, any addicts out there who have been rocking with us since the summer, know that we've been talking about some of these players for quite a while now. Brett and EJ do such a great job trying to sort of like balance, obviously, following the draft and guys who might be draft prospects, but also taking very deep dives into the NFL until the NFL season is over. And so, guys, I honestly feel as though a lot of the general draft audience out there is very much in line with you guys, where it's like, hey, like we're sort of getting to these draft prospects on the same timeline. And so what we're going to do here on the show is we're each going to shout out 2 different players, one on offense, one on defense. So we'll go 4 guys on offense, 4 guys on defense. And I think that it's nice having this group because Connor and I might be talking about players who are a little bit deeper cuts. You guys might be getting to players for the first time that you just really want to shout out. And I think it'll be a good blend of draft timelines wherever you're dipping your toe into the water of the 2026 NFL draft class. So we'll do this snake order. I'll go Brett, you're first, Connor, EJ. I'll give myself the back-to-back. I'll give myself the hot corner, and then we'll just do the reverse order there for the offensive guys. Let's start with defense. Brett, who you want to talk about? Who you watched?
So I'm sure you guys got to him a lot earlier than I did. Grayson Halton, the defensive tackle from Oklahoma. I love this guy. I love him so much. And there was a particular play. I'm sure you guys have watched the Bama game, but if you haven't watched Grayson Halton yet, first quarter, 4:41 on the clock, it's 3rd and 1. He's lined up inside of Caden Proctor, who is 6'7", 370. And Caden times the snap perfectly. He's going to down block him on a run play in short yardage. And in a fraction of a second, Grayson Halton reads it because he's kind of doing that frog stance squat again. They do read and react there. He's not really getting up the field. Like we talked about with Randy Gregory earlier, you got to separate the technique from the measurables. Fraction of a second. He reads it, flares his base out, takes on a guy who has 80 pounds on him, doesn't move at all. Like, hilarious anchor against Caden Proctor, who's a massive human being. And he does force the running back off the path. Now, the edge got his ass kicked, and so they gave up first down anyway. But, like, that was the rep where I was like, oh, he's for real. Like, he's got ridiculous strength for 6'2", 290. He's the kind of guy where, okay, yeah, he's a quote-unquote undersized 3 technique, but he's not going to lose in the run game. So we talk about block destruction being a trait that I really look for in DTs. He's got it, and he is really, really athletic. They'll put him as either a shade or a 2-eye, and when they're running stunts, it's very stunt-heavy defense when it comes to how they get after the pass rush or how they get after the quarterback. They will take him and line him up inside and do similar things to what Mike McDonald did with Justin Madubuike, where they loop him out as the contain player on pass rushes when they're doing all their stunt games and everything, or when they're doing all their stunts and everything, because he is fast enough where if the quarterback breaks the pocket, even at 290 pounds, he could still run him down. And that was Madubuike's superpower when he was playing with Baltimore, is like they could line him up inside and still use him as the contain player, which then gave the edges and the linebackers freedom to match up on all these guards and beat them with quickness inside. So if you have a guy who can stop the run and also be a contain player in the pass game, like, there are so many defensive coordinators in the NFL that would love to have that kind of player to kind of, use in all these different ways, line him up in all different spots. Like, I think Grayson Halton's a gem in this draft class. I don't know where he's going to go, but he's awesome.
He was great at the Senior Bowl as well. Like, really popped a couple of times throughout the week, just mainly with his quickness. But there were also, those times in run defense where he gives you more than you expect for a player who is 290 pounds. There's no doubt about it. Now, obviously, like, there's some reps where just sheer weight, you're sub 300 pounds playing in the trenches. Like, he'll give some things up in run defense. It's not like he's Caden McDonald, but he's got so much quickness to him that the ability to be a one-gapping player and really get around these offensive linemen, it's just when it looks good with Grayson Halden, man, it looks really good. And I think that you're right. He's had some eye-popping run defense snaps that make you feel pretty good about it. So he is somebody who I have had a lot of fun watching some of the better moments of him. And he's somebody who I actually got to see in person as well. I was on the field for the Oklahoma-South Carolina game when they were playing in Columbia. And he was somebody who he had a couple of big plays in that game where he just read it perfectly, combined that with great athleticism. He was either holding the line of scrimmage, getting into the backfield, whatever it was. And so that definitely plays out there. And he's also the type of player, after watching that game, like, he's pretty outwardly passionate about when he makes a good play in a good way. Like, you want those dudes who are competitive. You know, you talk about, like, when you have the opportunity to make a play and you make it, like, you feel good. Like, and you just got that juice about you. So I think he's going to be a high juice guy on the defensive line too.
I looked at a player up front as well, kind of with the same mindset that you were talking through, Brett, just the ability to do multiple things. And that's Gabe Akis, the edge rusher from Illinois, who...
That's how you pronounce it.
It's
yeah,
Akis.
No J.
I've gotten yelled at a lot for it. Don't worry about it.
Trevor's reformed.
Yeah. Connor bullied me enough to where now I know what it is.
Gabe Akis, 4-year starter at Illinois, started 8 games his freshman season, has really just gotten better every step of the way. But what I love about Gabe Akis is that, you know, this is somebody, his spring weight was almost 280 pounds. And you look at what they've asked him to be throughout various seasons. He goes to the Senior Bowl, he's down to 260. And it kind of, those different weight classes for him kind of represent how well-rounded of a player he is, because this is somebody that zero fear coming downhill and crashing against a pulling guard, can set the edge at his size, about 10-inch hands, 33-inch arms, well-built, good frame. And you look at, you know, the pass rush win percentage this year was right around 70th percentile, but you got these power rushers that can play all 3 downs. I think you have to grade that differently. Like, if you have somebody that's 240 pounds and they got a 90th percentile win rate, but you look at the coaching staff knowing that first down and second down might be a little bit of a journey when the run comes right at them. You know, you look at Gabe Akis and Zion Young and TJ Parker, these bigger, heavy-handed kind of edge players. That just gives them a different skill set that I think coaches value so much more, not having to get too substitution happy. And this is somebody that, once again, like he has that pro-ready skill set because of all the football he's played, all of the roles he's handled, and he can play in different fronts. You've seen him play standing up at a high rate. You've seen him play with his hand in the dirt. I'm a big fan of Gabe Akis.
It reminds me of 2 things that I've learned through my journey in doing this, and one of them was talking to Matt Bowen, and Matt Bowen said something to us when he was on our podcast that, look, if you can't set an edge at any level of football, I don't care whether they're talking about Pee Wee, JV, varsity, college, it's a long day. And it is a role that you need to have filled in the NFL, and if you don't, it's the same thing. You're going to have a long day. So guys that can do it, in any shape and size, if they can do it effectively and regularly, they're very valuable pieces of your football team. And the other piece was the year we went to OLM, and we were talking to all the blockers, to all the guys that are there defending against these guys. And we said, you know, hey, what's the thing that keeps you up at night? Are you really worried about the super fast guy, the bendy guy, that, you know, small guy, tall guy with long arms? What is it? And they said, you know, for most of those guys that are sort of more one-trick ponies, there's a way for us to compensate, and we can do it. And once we do that, it's about whether or not they have a counterpunch. And more than one of them said the ones that really get us are the power guys, because like we said earlier about drills, there's just no way to fake it. Like, if a guy can generate power, and Akis can generate power off that edge, he can not only contain, he can also collapse the pocket with power, with long arm from the edge, and just push blockers back. And there's not a lot to do against that. You can't really hide from that. And if you have that, it made me value that at a very different level, because guys that were sort of only that, oh, he's just a power rusher. Look, we're all looking for flash. You talked about theater and speed and everything else. And if a guy didn't have any of that, it's like, well, he's good, he's solid. But I came to look at them differently and say, no, that is something that, like, offensive tackles, top level offensive tackles in the NFL really kind of fear. Like, it sort of sets them back a pace, and they have to deal with it in a different way. So when a guy brings that to the table as a draft prospect, it definitely bumps them up in my book these days. I'm going to stay on the defensive line. Lee Hunter is a guy that has impressed me early throughout the process. His tape is good, and there's going to be that argument, right? He's not the only guy on his defensive line, and people are going to say, is he good because of the talent around him? I'm here to tell you he's not. He's good on his very own. And I feel like the solid baseline for NFL defensive tackle play, and you guys both touched on this earlier, is power. You need to control your gaps. Brett said it. That's 80% of the job, is to get the defense to a 3rd and long. And you do that by stopping the run and making sure that it's not going through your area. Lots of players have that ability. You can find them in the 4th or 5th round. Defensive tackles that can just stand up and control a gap. I'm not going to say they're a dime a dozen, but you certainly don't spend high draft capital on them. As you move up to that next level of DT, you find players who can make some plays solo, not just set the table for other players, linebackers behind them or edges. And that group is smaller and more valuable. That's typically 3rd and 4th round defensive tackles. If you go one more rung up the ladder, you get those players who not only influence the line of scrimmage, but can start to compress it. Right? They might not have pass rush moves, but they've got power as well. They reset that line, push it back into the quarterback's lap. You talked about block destruction, Brett. These are those guys that shows up over and over again as a regular skill set for them. Tremendously valuable players. We're talking about day 2 defensive tackles, 2nd and 3rd round. The top step of defensive tackles are the rarest players that can do all that other stuff plus create pass rush by themselves. Now, they can do that in a couple of ways. It's not just the fast guys that penetrate. I know they get a lot of the press, the quick 3 techs. We talk about guys like Kalijah Kancey and, Aaron Donald before him. They can really penetrate. To your point, Grayson Halton has some of that in his game. But when you get a big guy that can do it through power, block destruction, taking on double teams, and winning, those are the rare guys. Those are the round 1 defensive tackles that are well worth it because, to Trevor's point earlier and to Mike McDonald's point on defense, those are math changers. If you can win with 4 up front, you need one of these guys. Like, you have to have one. The Seahawks have 2, the Patriots have 2, but you can't win without one of the guys in the middle being one of these rare birds that can absolutely crush the pocket, control his gaps, do block destruction, and create some pass rush. I think Lee Hunter has some of that ability. He looks like he can do it physically. And, coming away from the Senior Bowl where you get the value of the one-on-ones, right? It's not the players around him influencing the rest of the defense. It's him versus some of the very top blockers in this class and dominating them. And you're like, okay, he might be one of those guys, 6'3", 320. And with that skill set and that proof that he can do it against the top guys in this class, Lee Hunter is going to be one of those guys that's flirting with the back 3rd of the 1st round as a player that could be a difference maker, especially after what just happened in the Super Bowl.
Where do you guys have him? Have you done your DT episode yet?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
No.
Okay.
I'm running through O-line now, and then DT's next, and then we'll hit safety and corner after that. So we haven't done D-line yet.
Unfortunately, the first DT I hit this year was Amari, and I was about ready to dedicate my next 4 months of my life to talking about Amari, and then he went back to Oregon. I was like, fuck.
Whoa. He has been off of the list so long. Yeah. And I don't have the brain power to care about anybody who's not in this draft class so much that when you said Amari, I was like, who is that? Is there somebody in this class that I have completely missed?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, thank goodness. It's the guy who went back to school.
Every year there are guys that, it's just painful to cross them off. You cross off a bunch every year and you're like, that would have been fun. And then there's guys you're like, I don't want to draw the line through his name.
Who was my guy for that this year? That's a really good question.
Amari was one of the guys for me this year. Gillenberg, the tight end, John Michael Gillenberg from Wyoming, was my guy last year. I was like, no.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, he's in this class. I thought you were talking this class. I was like, wait a second.
Last year, it was one of those lines.
Did somebody else wear his jersey at the Senior Bowl? I was like, wait a second, he's in this class.
I was so excited about him last year. And every year, there's at least one that you get really hyped up for, and for one reason or another, going to have to put it off a year.
Connor, do you have somebody?
Yours was the Colorado receiver, I thought.
Oh, Amari Miller. That kid can play.
That's who I thought yours was.
Yeah, that kid can play. I would have probably had him as a top 5 wide receiver. Like, I might have.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think I would have had him and like Denzel Boston sort of in the same area.
Damn.
Yeah.
I watched him for our receivers episode, and I think he went back to school the day we were recording.
He's just like he has the tools of what you would want for a potential. Now he is young. That's why he went back to school, because like he is a young player. But like the size, speed, strength, specifically the explosiveness from him, like that's what a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 like looks like that type of a player who's got that athleticism. So you're right. He was my guy. That's a good reminder. See, my guy in the class who was that answer. My brain capacity is so small that I didn't even. If you wouldn't have said his name, I would have never gotten to it. Would have never got there.
Do you guys get this? Where like somebody will send you something and it's like, he's gonna be a freshman next year. Tell me what you think of him.
All the time.
Dude, he's 6 years away from me, Carrie.
I'm like, I get the excitement, but I just don't have the capacity.
I can't
to do this.
I just can't.
All the time. Yes.
The only time I ever actually had an answer for that was like JKS, because I was obsessed with him at Elite 11. I was waiting 18 months for him to get to college. Yeah. And then there was like the little stint at Oregon, then he went to Cal, and like all summer I was like, Bears fans have no idea what they're about to experience here. And then he stayed, and like, oh God, I loved. I'm going to be like the number 1 JKS guy in 2 years when he's coming out.
I don't know, man.
I'm planting my flag.
He's made a lot of fans.
Yeah,
so
people are obsessed.
That fan group is growing already.
We get
for a
asked
guy
about
that
him a lot.
Can't even declare next year. So,
Hey, it's us again. And remember, we're just all trying to get these boys paid today. And one of the ways we do that is by using Cash App. Today's show is sponsored by Cash App, and they just released a new status program for the way people actually spend called Cash App Green. It unlocks new ways for you to pay, get rewarded, and easily grow and manage your money on your terms. Now, when you spend at least $500 a month with a Cash App card or Cash App Pay, you earn green status, which unlocks benefits like up to $200 of free overdraft coverage and custom personalized cashback offers every Friday at places that you like to shop. Turn everyday spending into status with Cash App Green. Download Cash App today and visit cash.app/new to learn more about this and other great features launching now. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use the code CASHAPP10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services are provided by Cash App's partners. Prepaid debit cards are issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Cash App Green, overdraft coverage, borrow, and cashback offers and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Incorporated brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Thanks again to Cash App for sponsoring today's show. Let's get back to it.
Okay, my guy that I really want to shout out. I don't know how much you guys have gotten into linebackers yet, but Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh is somebody who I've really, really enjoyed watching, mainly because I didn't really know what to do with him. I watched him over the summer, and I was like, okay, you're small, but you're really competitive. They'll play you at a lot of different spots. They'll play him at overhang. They'll play him as a slot. They'll play him off the edge. He'll play as a will linebacker. Like, they'll play him all over. But I'm like, God, you're kind of small. It's sort of tougher for you to get off blocks if they really get good hands on you. But man, you're so quick. He's got good ball skills. I think he's got a high football IQ to him. And it was sort of like I just wrestled with, from summer scouting all the way through this season, not knowing what to do with him. Like, which matters more than the other? The fact that I'm watching you be this good football player, or the fact that you're a good football player with measurables that don't really exist in the NFL very often. And then you try to think about, well, look how much the game is changing. Look at how much Derwin plays in this role. Look at what Nicky Manwari does. And you think about all of these things. And then I watched him at the Senior Bowl. And you guys have watched this before, whether it's been at the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, the Combine, whatever it is. Running back, linebacker, one-on-one passing drills.
Yep.
Basically, if you're a linebacker, you're getting put on a TikTok, right? Like you're getting put on a highlight reel, right?
It's not fun.
The running back has the entire field to work with. You have no help as a linebacker. You have to basically let them eat up all the space, and then you kind of just have to almost guess. And if you don't guess to make a play on the ball, you're trying to stay as close as possible. So you go, did my coach think I did a terrible job? Okay, not really. Whew, okay, we're good to go. Best case scenario in that drill, a lot of times, you disrupt the catch enough to where the running back either can't get their hands on it, won't come down with the catch. You're lucky you get a PBU. You actually get your hand on it because you read it really well. If you're incredibly lucky, you might get one interception all week if you read something like a book.
Yeah, if the ball's bad.
I was going to say, and the quarterback throws it 3 feet behind the running back. Yeah.
Kyle Lewis had multiple interceptions on this drill. Multiple. And the ones that he didn't, basically hit pocket on the running back.
Yeah.
And you kind of watch that, and then you think about him being lined in the slot as like an overhang. Him in space as a will linebacker. How much like fire he has to come downhill and play the run, even at a smaller size. And I just go, dude, where the game is going with these sort of players who you go, if we get the best out of this guy, we can be in a situation where, like you just said with the Seahawks, we might be able to live in nickel 80, 90% of the time. We might not even have to take our guys off the field. We might be able to match you. Now, I'm not saying that like Kyle Lewis is Nicky Manwari, but it's sort of that type of player where I go, okay, if I measure you traditionally versus linebackers, you're not going to stack up super well. And there is a baseline of physicality that you have to play when you're around the box. There's no doubt about it. But the player that he is in coverage, how athletic he is, and the potential that he can have given the versatility of how he was utilized at Pitt over the last 2 years makes me so intrigued in him as a player to where I'm probably going to have him around my top 60. I'm probably, without like me having full coach's knowledge and really being able to get hands on him to say like, hey, this is how we're teaching you to do this and all that kind of stuff. Without having that sort of knowledge, it's hard for me to be an outside draft analyst and not go, God, but think of what this guy could be for a defense if he hits. So Kyle Lewis to me is somebody that I've really enjoyed watching, and of the, how much do I trust this? Like, is he, do I trust more that he's built like a 5th round pick, or do I trust more that I feel like his impact is actually more towards that 2nd, 3rd round type of a projection? I think I'm leaning more towards the latter.
Can I give you a bad comp that's also a good comp?
Oh, all right, sure. Yeah.
Mark Barron.
Oh, Buccaneer, great. Buccaneer legend.
But, is he a safety? Is he a linebacker?
Right.
Kind of both.
Yeah.
Where do you fit him in there?
And
right?
I think that Barron definitely played in an age where they weren't really ready for a lighter linebacker.
Right.
And he didn't really have the fluidity that he needed to play safety. Barron was also coming into the league at the time where, like, hitters, man. Deshaun Goldson, I remember, was one of them. Mark Barron was kind of like billed as this over the middle of the field enforcer player. And then when that role got eliminated because of the rule book, they were kind of like, all right, well, put you a linebacker, I guess. But then they're asking him to do like things that you would ask a 250-pound linebacker to do. And it's like, all right, that's not really going to work. Like today's modern day Sam is almost more like that you play nickel, right? Like you were like an overhang defender. Whereas the Sam linebacker of before, you were 260. Like they were asking, they were asking you to play on the line of scrimmage essentially if you were a Sam. So yeah, I mean, Barron's sort of that same conversation of like, what are you type of a thing. But to just, the context of Barron, like he kind of played in an era that was actually really terrible for his skill set. And I think that's why he ended up not really being a super impactful player throughout his career.
Arizona made it work with Deion Buchanan, but it took years before any other team figured out how to do it.
Sure, right.
And it was always seen as a negative. It was always seen as a derogatory. Well, you're not this, so we'll try and do this with you.
Right.
And now it's different. Trev, I think you had the right team and the wrong player. I'll give you another one. Imagine him as a juiced up Drake Thomas.
Sure.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Right.
And Drake Thomas, like linebacker is one of the most mis-scouted positions in football, period. Because people look at measurables and then you have these changing roles within defenses, within eras that people try and match up sort of square pegs and round holes all the time. And they don't see the important stuff and they miss other good stuff. Drake Thomas was one of those players that was overlooked. I really liked him when I saw him at the Shrine Bowl. Again, his measurables are not great. He was not super fluid. He's not as fluid as Kyle is, in pass coverage. He's gotten better at that, but he was a great blitzer. He's a tremendous blitzer. He was really aggressive, still is. And Mike Mack saw that, picked him up when he got, cast off from the Raiders and went, hey, man. And he starts for that defense. Again, the dark side defense, the one that just dominated the Super Bowl. Drake Thomas is a player for them. So take that, add a little bit of athleticism, more pass coverage, and yeah, that is a player that has a defined role and a valuable one in the modern NFL. So I'm with you. I think he is going to be a guy that climbs throughout the process, not only because of who he is or what he does, but again, how the league's evolving and how players with that skill set are making an impact right now in the game.
All right, so I'll flip over to offense since we're snake drafting this. Connor, I got to do it. Blake Miller. Offensive tackle, Clemson.
Fight your fight.
Is there some lore here I'm not aware of?
It's just like year 3.
The lore is that this is year 3. I was
okay.
Speaking of not declaring,
dude, yeah, brother, dude. He came on.
Trev declared. Trev declared he's a Blake Miller fan. He just did it 3 years ago.
This was the Blake Miller journey is so funny to me because I watched him for summer scouting. Not this past one, but 2 years prior. And I went, man, I like this dude. Like, I think he's built the way an offensive tackle is supposed to be built at the NFL level. He's really patient for a young offensive tackle. I think the footwork's pretty good with the handwork. Like, he's always pretty balanced. Now, the thing was, he was light. Like, he had to get a lot stronger. He had to get more sand in the pants. Like, he just had to grow into his body more, and he needed to be able to handle power better. So I understood why he didn't declare, when I first watched him 2 years ago. And then last year comes around, and he's still, all the good is still there, and he's a little bit better at handling power still. If he would have declared, there would have been those question marks, so he didn't declare last year either. This year, now he's out of eligibility. You got no choice, buddy. We're evaluating you. And I'm talking about you here on the show. I still like him. Again, he's just built the way offensive tackles are built. And I think that his style is so well calculated. I think that it's so patient. I think that he has so much experience that's starting for Clemson for the last 4 years. I think his hand usage is great. He's seen so many different pass rush moves, different guys who are built in different ways, want to win in different ways. He's able to handle a lot of them. I like the foot speed from him. He's got long arms. He's got the certainly the long arm length that you want to be able to play offensive tackle. Is power still the biggest issue for him? Yes, but he's gotten a little bit bigger and he mitigates it a little bit more. And I think his advanced technique has helped him in that regard as well. But it was so funny because I feel like I've been talking about this guy for 3 years and I never heard anything about him, right? Like, even when he was draft eligible, like, I didn't, Dane Brugler is a fantastic, like, barometer sometimes because Dane talks to so many different people in the league and he's got such a deep database of these players that, like, if he's not shouting these players out in, like, a top 100 or a top 150 or something, you're like, all right, well, good chance the league's not super in on this guy. And I never heard, like, Dane or DJ or any of these, like, really well-connected people talk about Blake Miller at all. And I was like, am I taking crazy pills? And now we're obviously talking about him in this class because we have to. And now, like, he's pretty high on Dane's board. He's pretty high on DJ's. I think he made DJ's top 50. He made DJ's latest mock draft as well, like at the back end of the first round. And I'm just like, I knew it. There he is.
Vindication.
That's right.
My boy. So, He's not a perfect prospect. He's not going to go in the top 5, but he's an offensive tackle who's built the way you want an offensive tackle to be built, who I just think really approaches pass protection in a way that is so well calculated, well thought out, patient, and then he's got the tools to be able to execute in those ways. So let's continue to get him a little bit stronger as he gets into his mid and late 20s, but I think that you could have a really good offensive tackle prospect who I felt like has gone underrated over the last couple of years.
He reminds me a lot of Brian O'Neill.
Yep.
Now,
That's
O'Neill was coming out. He was younger.
Yeah.
He was
Same
lighter.
style.
I think O'Neill was, 15 pounds lighter than him? But it was a similar kind of thing where it's like, get a little bit more sand in the pants, got to handle power better. O'Neill allowed like 1 sack in his first 3 years in the NFL because he had everything else. He just had to get stronger, and then he got stronger seemingly in one offseason. Go figure. You go from Pitt strength and conditioning to Minnesota Viking strength and conditioning. You come out at 305. You were 295. Magically, you can handle power.
Right.
But like I see that kind of skill set. Like I thought he looked really, really athletic picking up stunts, which to me is usually a great indicator of if a tackle can actually move, of like, can I pass off this edge and actually like pass him off in a good way to help out my guard and then get to my landmark outside to pick up a looper or a nickel or a linebacker or whoever. Like the fact that you can do that means you're an athlete. He's kind of built like O'Neill. He also kind of reminds me a little bit of Gadecki from Tampa, where it's like, you can move, you can sort stuff out really well.
I haven't seen what his thoughts are on smelling salts, so I can't fully go in on the Gadecki comp until I see that. But I think that the rest of it checks out.
Starting tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. EJ, who's your next guy?
Part of the reason I'm in this business at all is being a storyteller, because the stories are great and the NFL is always full of them. And I'm going to go with Tyron Montgomery. And if you haven't heard of Tyron Montgomery, you're not alone. Spent time playing for Nicholls State in Division I and John Carroll in D3, which is what everybody heard about at the Senior Bowl. But his story goes a lot further back than that. He started his career 1 semester at LSU playing basketball. Ended up having to go home because of family reasons, tries to walk on at Houston, but it doesn't work out. Here's what'll date it. Because of the pandemic. So nobody's willing to take a chance on him because he's never played tackle football. Well, it seems like a pretty good reason not to give a guy a D1 scholarship. But eventually he joins up with Nicholls State, but he runs out of D1 eligibility, and he's obviously not done with his story. It's persistence. Hooks on with D3 John Carroll. Ends up with over 1,000 yards and 17 TDs. It's an unbelievable story. Goes to the All-American Bowl, gets a late call up to the Senior Bowl, and holds his own. Makes plays against, again, some of the top corners in this class. He's 5'11", 190. He's sudden and violent off the line. Not super polished, but again, the athleticism is there. Tremendous leaping ability, a dog with the ball in the air, and he has a special gear once he gets the ball in his hands. This is one of those things that, again, all the drills and advanced analytics don't track that well. GPS does an okay job of it, but there was the play, and you all saw it. It was the slant at the Senior Bowl practice, and he catches it in between 3 guys, and then he's just gone. He shouldn't have gone anywhere on that play. He should have been shut down. As soon as the ball touches his hands, he's one of those guys that has an extra gear. He lit the candle and everybody went, oh, hey, that's different. We can work with that. So he's still a long shot because he's so new to football. He's trying to make it at the highest level, but make no mistake, he has turned the heads. He will get drafted because of the tools. And to me, stories like his are what makes this event and this league really, really special. And to me, it's worth highlighting it for that alone. Even if he doesn't get drafted until the later rounds, even if he's a special teamer for the first 2 or 3 years in the league and doesn't make that, again, tremendous sort of, candle over the horizon impact that, we saw from the Senior Bowl story, it doesn't matter to me because these are stories about persistence, about guys that love the game and have showed, hey, put me on the big stage. I'll play. Everybody says that, but when somebody actually does it, it's special stuff, and Tyron Montgomery is this year's guy for that.
I love that, EJ, because it really is part of the theater of the NFL draft is, and this is, people always ask about going to the All-Star events and seeing the top players, but this is really, the meat and potatoes of it is, can a guy that is on the fringe of being breaking from a UDFA A grade to a late day 3 grade, hold his own against the day 2 guys? And Tyron Montgomery was the perfect example of that this year. He was the poster child of that this year. And it makes people dig into the story that you broke down about him of, why is he an older prospect? What was he doing at D3 football? And how did we get here? And it just paints a clearer picture. And it's, some of the more interesting sides of the draft.
Well, Connor, I assume you have a program even smaller than John Carroll.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, for your guy. Yeah.
I'm going with the very little-known University of Miami.
And
not
Upstart
Ohio.
Program.
Yes. Yeah. We've been talking, but Blake Miller could go in the first round, but Lee Hunter can too, but we've largely been talking about non-round one kind of guys. Somebody kind of has to take the baton here and talk about somebody of the caliber of Francis Mauigoa. This is someone who will be a top 10 pick, most likely, top 15 pick. This is somebody that was a 5-star recruit and was the top tackle of his class and went to IMG Academy. There's not some Cinderella story here at all. This is
Nobody saw it coming.
Well,
yeah.
well, wait, hold on. All jokes aside, it kind of is, right? Because of
the
where
American Samoa part and
yes.
Yeah, this is really cool down to the roots of the story. Mauigoa is from the American Samoa, and which I, during this, did some deep diving, about the background of, the natives from there and everything not being like American citizens and the separation of their society versus mainland United States. So I'd recommend people to look at that and see, it is really, really interesting. So you're right, Trev. It's not as simple as this guy was born in Florida and was recruited in high school, is the top. Moving from the American Samoa to the United States to play high school football is not only a massive, massive move, but then to have to return home during a global pandemic and play local football there for a season because of the pandemic, and then go back to the United States and start your journey at IMG Academy. That's a lot for any human being.
Right.
That's particularly a lot for a high schooler who consistently lives up to the hype. This is the most holes that will be picked in Francis Mauigoa's game in his lifetime, because he's just answered the bell at every step, no matter how much hype he's had. He went on from the American Samoa to be a high-end high school football player. He went on from being a 5-star recruit to being a really damn good right tackle for a Miami team that went to the national title game. And he started since his true freshman season in 2023 and got better year after year. When you watch the full picture of him from 2023 to this season, it's like, damn, there were people that were just writing this guy off as a guard after 2 years of college football. And don't get me wrong, there's aspects of his game that will lean people to be like, you know what? It's the same exact conversation with him, and this is why I wrote down this player in summer scouting. I wrote down shades of Taliza Fuanga, because some of his shortcomings, he can lean in pass protection. He's got such a thick build that sometimes when he gets over his skis, it's hard for him to readjust back the other way. The lateral agility is average, which if you're taking an offensive lineman in the top 10, you would like it to be better than that. His pad level can run high at times, and he can fail to sustain his run blocks. And on the move, he could lose control and not always land on his targets. But this is someone who's 20 years old. He's big, thick, powerful. With that build, he just stalls speed to power. This was the combo with Fuanga. It's like if you're going to try to drive through him, it's just not going to happen for you. And to be able to say that at 20 years old, what I love, though, is I think he played as a more controlled run blocker in 2025 than the previous 2 years. You see it in inside zone. You see him when he's on the move. There's a play in the third quarter against NC State. If you just want to watch him run, they have him pull, and he runs about 40 yards down the field, and my jaw hit the floor. He didn't even land on multiple players. They just wanted nothing to do with him. That he cleared out multiple players. So if you want to see this dude run, watch the second half of that game. He's a great athlete. He gets off the ball at his size, and it just allows him to latch onto targets. So Mauigoa, he's going to be picked apart And people are going to be like, oh, I don't know. He might only be a guard, and can you take a guard in the top 15? But as you guys brought up, it's good to do the background on the story, and the trajectory this guy is on is why he's going to be a really, really high-end pick.
I think we've talked about this before on our show. Like, is he Penei Sewell? Is he Tristan Wirfs? No. But I think he's a 2-contract offensive tackle for you. You know, and I think it's so, I don't know how you guys feel about this. I hate the phrase, draft him and he'll start for the next 10 years. Who does that?
It's the worst.
It's hard, man.
Who starts for the next 10 years?
Almost nobody. Yeah.
Certified Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Do that.
Luke Kuechly played 8.
Yeah.
Played 8 years.
Luke Kuechly, you didn't even draft Luke Kuechly and start him for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So I hate that phrase. And
it's lazy.
The way that I've said it more now is the way that I've sort of thought about it from a scouting and team building perspective. When you draft guys early, like, yeah, there's certain ceilings and impact. Obviously, there's things that go into this as well. So it's not, again, the total picture. But are you drafting a player that you think's a 2-contract player for you? Because ultimately, that's what it's about, right? Drafting a player who's talented enough to start for you, who you feel compelled to retain. And so that's how I've gone about saying it more. Like, again, is Francis Mauigoa, Penei Sewell, Tristan Wirfs? No. But I think he's a 2-contract starter at offensive tackle for you. And I think, or offensive line in any way, shape, or form. And I think that that's valuable.
He reminds me, so I have a player comp for him and I have like a vibes comp for him. My player comp is Cordy Glenn. My vibes comp, which by the way, Cordy Glenn, multi-contract tackle.
There you go.
Good
There
player.
you go. There it is, folks.
My vibes comp for him is like, if you ever go to one of those like adventure zones where like, you know, kids are having birthday parties and everything, and there's always the foam pit that you can jump into, and like the harder you struggle, the less you move. Like you just can't get out of it. You can't get anything done in a foam pit. That is rushing against this guy. Like,
Sure.
The harder you try, the worse, like the more pathetic you're going to look, honestly.
Right.
You just
make
you
a move and
stop.
go. Yeah.
It's like, you got to just eat it, man. Like if you're on the ground, you're on the ground. But like the longer the rep goes, the more you get embarrassed.
Hey, we talked about this before we hit record. I almost went with girth for offensive linemen as the most important trait in Francis Mauigoa. I'm just saying. That's, you basically just described like how having that sort of size and power and just it being so difficult to get around. It is valuable.
All right, Brett, take us home.
My last guy here, and again, I acknowledge I'm got to the party late. We're always doing stuff for the actual NFL season. We don't usually get to the draft until like Thanksgiving at the earliest, but even then it's like mid-December usually, because we look at our calendar, we're like, oh shit, the Shrine Bowl's in a month. We got to get going here. So I got to Ted Hurst late. I acknowledge that. I don't claim Ted Hurst as like a Brett Coleman discovery, but oh my God. When I first watched him, he was one of the first receivers I watched, and I'm not sure if I'm going to find very, very many guys in this class that have a better combination of size, speed, length, right? And then when you dig in even more and you see like how much press coverage that he had to work against this year. So he had 15 20-plus yard catches in just 11 games, which, by the way, we love explosiveness. But he had the 5th most snaps against press coverage in this entire class in just 11 games. Elijah Surratt didn't pass him in terms of press reps until the Natty. And he played 16 games, right? So, like, this guy was going up against really tight man coverage, and I understand level of competition, but, like, press is press. Like, you still got to run around a guy and actually, like, stack and win positioning early and win positioning late. Like, 2.35 yards per route run against that much press coverage, 60% contested catcher. Like, the best we can hope for in the NFL is, like, 55%. He was at 60%. Big, long, fast, can catch. Like, is there something wrong that I don't know here other than just, okay, he's sub 200 pounds? Like, showed up at the Senior Bowl, made plays there. Like, I don't know what I'm missing here. I love Ted Hurst. I think he's sick.
For me, Brett, I want to see how he runs, right? And I don't necessarily think he's slow, but that's the one thing I'm curious of. I think the ball skills are wild. Like that, they just, like, you see some of the plays he can make above the rim. It's real.
By the way, he showed up to the Senior Bowl at 207. So
so they just lied to us.
Small.
no, I think he probably was playing more slender, and I think feedback he probably got from the league is like, sure wish you were 205, buddy. And he, and he found his nearest Little Caesars and said, all right, bet. And just, the hot and ready diet.
No, he's an impressive player, and you talked about ball skills. Some of the one-handed catches he makes at his size around the sideline was the thing that really impressed me. Is his body control for a guy his size around the sideline, around the end zone line. Those are valuable translatable skills. Like the field's the same size. Like we talk about the hashes all the time, whatever else. But when you're a wide receiver, you're going down the sideline. To your point, Brett, there's somebody impressed. There's somebody close to you. Contested catch, features, and he can make them in lots of different ways. Yes, he's tall. He can go above the rim, but he can also lean 30 degrees out of bounds and snag one-handed with a guy pushing on him and complete the catch. Those skills are going to go no matter where you play.
Just a casual 2-hour show here, boys.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Hey, we promised long form.
We're like, oh yeah, we'll go an hour 15.
Yeah,
No.
EJ said it. Long form show. We got a lot of takes. We got a lot to talk about.
Classic Ed move.
Look, I'm going to tell him you said that.
He's the man behind the curtain.
That's right.
He really is.
Behind the curtain.
EJ, the fun doesn't stop here. Well, for this episode, it does, because we do have families that will yell at us if we don't get off camera on the microphone. But you mentioned that this is a multi-episode series, so why don't you tell the people the schedule that we have coming up for him?
Yeah, we've got
show.
4 of these on tap. This is episode 1. Again, it's going to land, if you're seeing it, you already know this, on the NFL Stock Exchange channel. Episode 2 will be on the Bootleg channel on March 6th. Episode 3 back on NFL SE, March 27th. And episode 4, the final episode on Bootleg, April 17th, the week before the NFL draft kicks off. On episode 2, we're going to have some debates. Our draft debate's going to be BPA versus drafting for needs. Reports from our time at the Combine. All 4 of us will be there. The rare occurrence. We're all in one place at one time. Talk about risers and fallers and maybe some secret players that caught our eye with, again, maybe less heralded performances, but things we thought were important. And our answer to viewer questions. You can submit them in the comments. Brett said it at the top. If you have something you want us to talk about, put it in the comments. We'll probably end up taking our favorites of those and answering them during the series because, again, we wouldn't be anything without all of you and love all the interaction. So thanks for being here and thanks for following along.
And of course, leading up to this, so this is a good little gap we have right now. We're kind of kicking things off post Super Bowl, but you mentioned, EJ, the March 6th release of episode 2. We have the franchise tag window from February 17th to March 3rd. We have the NFL Combine, which starts February 23rd and ends on March 2nd. And then right after our second episode, of course, the legal tampering window opens on March 9th, concludes the 11th before the real thing begins. So we have these segmented in a pretty good way to kind of hit these tentpole events.
Can we just make a show rule, by the way? I suggest that if, while we're at the Combine, if anybody sees somebody parked in an alley, we just collectively let it go, keep each other accountable, grab them, move on.
Yeah, it's a good rule.
Yeah.
Get over to Elmo's.
Compared to our
just let
usual
it go.
selves.
Yeah. That's a good rule.
You know what? It's time for me to change.
This is a ton of fun. I love chopping it up with you guys. We always really enjoy it. Hopefully you guys out there do as well. I think the content that we've been able to link up and collaborate with these guys tells us that you absolutely have. So very excited for the other 3 episodes that we have in this series. Big shout out to the people who sponsor the show, made it possible. Factor, Mando, Blue Wire Podcasts, like all of those who helped make this show possible. We appreciate you guys. What's the next topic? The next topic is, what did we say it was going to be?
BPA versus drafting for needs.
Yes.
Sounds like a short show again. Definitely going to be wrapped up in 40 minutes. Yeah.
3 takes each. Done.
The endless debate of drafting for needs and then drafting BPA. Oh, man, you're not going to want to miss that one. Folks, we appreciate you watching. For Brett and EJ, Ed as well, wherever he is, for Connor and myself, we appreciate you guys watching the first episode of the Blue Chip Committee. We will see you guys for episode 2 on March 6th. See you guys then.